Alright, today I'm going to show you how to do the hose repair on a Bissel SpotClean Pro. You can buy the part, looks like this. You can get that on Amazon for about 50 bucks. Bissel will say this is a repair that you have to take to an authorized service center, and I'm going to show you in the next few minutes why they're completely full of crap and trying to take your money. So let's get to it. Alright, so the first step in this procedure is to take off the two tanks. You have the waste tank on your left side. You can just set that aside, you won't need it for the rest of this. And then you have the solution tank on your right side. For this, you'll probably have to disconnect the end of the hose as well. So we'll pull that off. Set that over there. Alright, and then the next thing you're going to want to do is detach and unwind as much as you can the old hose, because you're basically going to need to be able to get to screws that are in the way. So once you have that hose unwound, the screws you want to take out first, there are two here at the bottom, there, and then there's one right up in here that's kind of hiding. I found the right angle screwdriver works pretty well for that, so you can kind of get it in the little pocket and then just start twisting it out to the left. Okay, there's one. Let's do the other two. Set those aside. And you're going to flip the unit around and do the exact same thing on this side. Okay. Alright, so your next step then is to remove the screws for the cord wrap assembly. Two of them are in these little holes here, and then the other one is right down here on the inside below where the solution tank sits. So let's get those out. Okay. Alright, once you have those screws out, you can just kind of lightly tug on this piece. It's probably better to actually get the cord off of it first. That way it doesn't fight you. Okay, so once that's off, you can just kind of pull out, and then you just basically want to have it be kind of loose and start to unwrap with the outer skin. Alright, the next step then is on the other side. You're going to want to, at the bottom of your hose wrap, there's a little spot down here. You can kind of see the indent of my finger pushing into this. This is a sticker that sits on the piece, and then below it there are actual screws on the machine. So what you want to do is basically, you can use your needle nose pliers, or maybe even a flathead screwdriver would work well for this, but you just kind of want to like get under the lip of it. Actually, I might use, I have a knife back here that would be good at this. So you just want to kind of get it started. And then once you can get your finger under there, just peel back slowly, use even pressure, and then you can separate this sticker off without damaging it. Alright, so once you're under here, you can see there's 5 screws in these little holes, and these are the ones you want to take out next. Get all those to come out, and then the hose reel just detaches and you can set that to the side. Alright, so once that's out, you can kind of see here where the hose assembly disappears into the machine. We're going to have to be able to get this skin out of the way. So, since you took all the screws out, you can sort of just lightly tug until it comes off, and then set that to the side. The other side then just does the same thing. You can peel off the pieces, and that removes the outer shell. So now you're basically down to the motor housing assembly that's in here, and then the hose that goes in. Obviously this is where the water comes in off the hose and then gets sent up into the tank through this little chimney. So there's 2 screws here and here that hold the chimney onto the side of that, and those are the ones you want to remove next. Okay, so once it's separated, you're good. Alright, so now that you have the screws out of your chimney, the next step is to remove the lid of this motor housing, which is right here. 2 of the screws for this are in these little deep pockets that are there, and the other 2 are exposed. They're here and over here. For these, because they're underneath an overhang, I found that the right angle screwdriver works the best. You might be able to get a bigger one in there at an angle. It's up to you, whatever you have. So let's get those out. Those are those 2. And let's get the ones out of the pits. It's worth noting that these screws here that came out of this motor housing are longer than the ones that came out of the rest of the machine, so you want to make sure you don't get these mixed up between the 2 different steps. Alright, you're finally done removing screws, so the next step is to lift the lid off the motor housing, which you may need to pry back on these chimney houses just a little bit, but then eventually that cover comes off. And then there is some wiring in here that goes up to the power switch on the front of the unit, so just be careful not to tug too hard on this or you'll end up ripping those wires out of the wire harness. But anyway, the piece that we care about is this connection right up here. You'll see there's a pair of little silver hose clamps, and then this is the line that feeds the solution out into the hose that when you squeeze the trigger it'll spray. Obviously, if we had just had to hook up the waste connector, that one just plugs into the side. It's really easy. It's this little thing that's just a real pain. So what you're going to do is take your needle nose pliers, and there's little tabs that are on these connectors, so you can kind of basically, they go around the hose and then have little ends that go like this, so you want to squeeze your pliers so that they bend towards the center, and that's going to open up the clamp and let you pull it off. So let's get that done. And to do this easier, you can move the little rubber boot up out of there, and then that gives you some more space to work. Okay, so once you have your hose clamps backed off, then you can just kind of wiggle back and forth on these hoses until they let go. You might have to pull a little bit. But basically what you're going to do then is separate out the T-shaped connector that's on the end of the hose from these two rubber hoses. Okay, so it's going to come apart just like that, and then you can completely remove your old hosing assembly from the unit. And then next up is your new hose, which has another one of those T-shaped connectors, and you're literally just going to hook it right back up just as if it was the other one. So this time we'll fit those hoses back on, and then put our clamps back in place. I usually give those a good squeeze just to make sure they bit. Do the other one. Squeeze. Okay, and then the real important thing here is this little rubber piece. You can see it's kind of longer on the one end than it is on the other. The long end needs to face down whenever you put this back in. So you're going to want to rotate it however you need to, so that whenever you feed this back through, you might need to wiggle it out a little bit too. But it'll basically slip into this groove with the side of the machine. Just like that. And then you want the top of the rubber to be roughly flush with the plastic. Just like that. Another thing to note then is you can kind of see there's a little groove where this screw hole is on the one side. Obviously the spring is running to the left right now. For the machine to close properly, you need to move that hose over to the right side so that the lid goes on without any trouble. And once that's done, you can re-rotate, and you're going to put the cover assembly back on. It's a little trickier than it looks, but eventually it'll go on just like that. When it all sits flush, you're good. And then the next step is you're going to take the screws that you took out of this motor housing and put them right back in. Alright, so we now have the long screws we took out of this motor housing, and you're just going to put them right back into place. You don't need to go crazy tight, just basically until they stop. You don't want to strip them out because they are just plastic threads. And I can usually get the ones that go in here started with the long screwdriver, or even by hand, and then use the right angle just to finish them off. Obviously the right angle screwdriver takes more time. I'm going to rotate. We're going to do the same thing over here. Alright, your next step is going to be to reattach the screws that went into these holes in the chimney. So put those back in. And then once that's done, you have the two outer shell casings, and then basically you're just going to loosely fit them back on. And you want to make sure that the tab here passes through this slot here as you put the machine back together. And just kind of tuck everything in. This is also the point where you need to line up the new exhaust input. So basically get that lined up with the hole, and you can put this right in. Alright, and then there are some tabs that lock these together. And I want to make sure that all of those tabs snap into the right areas. So like down here on the bottom, for example, this piece needs to overlap on the other side. Just like that. And on this side. Okay, and once you have that entire thing together, you can reattach the 6 screws that you removed at the very beginning that go at the top of your arcs. And down at the bottom. Alright, once that's done, you're going to come back over here to your hose wrap and grab the plastic piece you removed in the first step. You want to line it up so that the hole where you eventually pushed on that sticker lines up there, and that'll kind of seat in place. You might have to tilt it up on end so it doesn't move. Grab the 5 screws you removed from that and start putting them back in. And once you have your 5 screws in, you can take your sticker and carefully line it back up and smooth it back into position like that. I have a slight air bubble in the center, so you just kind of work that out towards the edges. And then you're going to come over here on your other side, and you're going to put this screw back in there on the inside. So, do that next. And then your last 2 are these 2 here inside the cord wrap. And that's it. You can then wind the cord back around the machine. And you can wind align the new hose around the hose wrap. And then that just hooks on just like that. And then you'll reattach your tanks. Pop one there. We'll pop the other one here. Reattach your attachment, and that's it. Alright, so hopefully this video was helpful for you guys, and feeling confident enough to do this repair on your own. So for $50 on Amazon, you can buy yourself a new hose, do it yourself, and save a bunch of money. So, alright, thanks for watching.